Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. My name is Amasid and today is the day. We have so much to go through today. We've got Path of Exile 2, we've got PoE's 3.14 League Ultimatum, which I am so excited about. And we're going to break it down detail by detail, give my thoughts. We'll go through all the mechanics, all the changes, and we'll take it from there. So first things first, let's start with PoE 2. There's not a whole lot to say besides, wow. This game looks beautiful. I'm talking graphically, it looks really, really good. I mean, when you're comparing it to current PoE, it makes current PoE look like it's from 1990. For me, it's like a Diablo 2 to Diablo 2 Resurrected level change. I think that the game looks incredibly, incredibly good. The gameplay is so fluid. It looks like it feels good. You know, PoE right now can sometimes have clunky aspects to it, but right now PoE 2 just looks like it feels good and plays well. So a couple of notes on this that I thought were interesting. Well, the crossbow gameplay, everyone was talking about the announcing of switching bolts, which I wrote down before Chris mentioned it during the Q&A, but man, that would get really annoying. I hope they don't keep that. That's one that I think that could change. But other than that, one mini boss per area. The bosses looked really cool. They were very unique looking models. That looked fun. Crossbows in general looked like a fun thing, like switching arrows, types of shots. That's very fluid, very flexible. I like that. A couple other things that Chris mentioned in terms of speed. He was asked during the Q&A whether speed was still going to be a thing basically in PoE 2, and in short the answer is yes. He's basically saying that there's appropriate levels for both gameplay and you can get by on both. So that's awesome. One thing interesting that he mentioned during the Q&A was the PoE trade website being integrated into the game. And the understanding to be taken there was that basically if they wanted to change trade right now, they would. So they're not doing it, and they're happy with the state of trade, which I would say I think they need to keep thinking about that. They want to integrate basically the PoE trade website into the game, and that's going to happen, I think, with PoE 2 is their plan. I don't want to let that overshadow all the other positive things and all the other great changes that they've acknowledged that things are wrong and they're going to make changes. So I don't want to let that stand in the way, but I do think that they need to sort of broaden their view of trade, and I know they're still going to get a lot of pushback every single league until they fix it. So They think PoE 2 is the true sequel to Path of Exile, and frankly, it really does look like it. It looks like an incredible game, and I can't wait to get my hands on the beta or the alpha or whatever it may be. So now transitioning over to Ultimatum, it's the Gamble League, baby. Gambling has its name written all over this league. It's like Chris designed this league just for me. It's almost as if I work for GGG myself. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So we're going to break this down in a few ways. When I was taking notes on this, I wrote the word rework probably 3,000 times. So we're going to break it down into 3 different sections, which is just the league mechanic, the reworks, and then kind of other random changes. So let's start with the league itself. It basically is like a wave-based ritual. You go in, you fight waves, and as you pick the waves, or as you fight a wave, you get the option to continue for an increased and better reward, or to stop and collect what you want. And Chris says that basically this will challenge even the most seasoned PoE player in terms of how far you can go. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of hardcore deaths, so people pushing this. I think it's a really, really cool mechanic. I'm very excited to play it. Again, I like this idea of relatively simple, straightforward league mechanics, nothing too insane. I think once they did Betrayal and then they ramped it into Synthesis, it was fun leagues. Absolutely. Synthesis was great. I loved it, but very complicated to master. Even very complicated to set up. As even a person like myself who's playing this game quite a bit, I thought it was a little too much. So I'm a fan of these simple leagues that they keep doing, where the mechanics are relatively approachable and easy to understand. So again, the concept is you're risking your items for greater reward, which I think is a great thing. Chris used the phrase a double or nothing situation in terms of the league. So I like that idea. There's the Trial Master. So basically you get these inscribed ultimatums, and he said this number is subject to change, but they're about a 1 in 20 drop chance from a map, which is accessible, I would say. It's not too crazy because I'm guessing there's a variety within those. He said sometimes it'll be a unique upgrades to another unique, etc. But to break this down very specifically, before we get too into the details, essentially it specifies an offer. So the offer might be 1 Exalted Orb, and the chance and basically it has a prescribed outcome to double that item. He said roughly everything is going to be twice in value in terms of pure currency. So, for example, one of the ones that they showed during the trailer was 4 nurses, and you get 4 nurses in return, so you get double your nurses. So basically, it's a double or nothing league, which is just music to my ears of gambling. I love it. I can't wait. He said obviously these inscribed ultimatums contracts, as I was thinking of them, are tradable, so there's gonna be a lot of cool work there. The glimpse of chaos item he showed, which is another Hands of the High Templar situation. Yeet, we're gonna be gambling that. I can already smell it. That looks super fun. Another cool thing he noted, this doesn't really apply to me, but it might apply to some of you all, where there's separate rewards for players in a party. So that is really, really cool, where basically ritual was tricky because like I think it was with the map owner could only be the one who interacted with the ritual, whereas in Ultimatum, everyone in the party gets their own choice and they can make decisions on how they want to stop them with their rewards. Really, really cool. I think they're handling this league looks really fun just by itself, just excluding all the other changes. This mechanic looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, now let's get to the real meat of this with the rework. So they basically took everything in the game and they're like, nah, not good enough, and then they redid it. So let's start, this is in no particular order, but let's just start with lab. So the lab enchant changes are huge. This is exactly the type of enchant change that I was hoping they were going to do. I was at one point planning to do a Q&A video, not a Q&A video, a QOL video, things I want to see in Path of Exile, and this is exactly how I was going to suggest they fix lab. Thank God this is how they're doing it. So first things first, instead of previously where you would essentially go to the offering, the font, and it would pick, you click it up, drop it on your helm, you get an enchant. That's it. It's a random enchant. Now you get 3 choices of enchants that you can decide, and this is just going to make farming enchants for your helm so much easier. I'm sure it's going to kill a lot of people who farmed this on their own, but I'm sorry, making this accessible to the player base is much better than having 1 or 2 people control huge amounts of the market. So positives there. Emperor's Might is now going to be accessible. For those who don't know, Emperor's Might is a jewel that used to be rewarded for the person who cleared I believe it was the lab the fastest on any day. So you get one of those jewels, and basically it was just farmed by like 2 people, 3 people per league who just basically just ran it over and over and over and over again and controlled the market and the prices. And ridiculous. It was like needed to be changed 3 years ago. So I'm really happy to see this change go through, as well as small thing is that you can throw an offering into the map device to get a random trial. That's going to be really great for people who are, maybe on SSF or something like that. Or even if you're just playing softcore or hardcore normal and trade league, and you just don't want to deal with, 820 trade or 820 channel, then you can, 820 global rather, then you can just get the random trials yourself and get it quicker. Cool. So lab, all positives. I can't think of a negative thing to say. Essences are buffed. It's relatively small, basically corrupting with the remnant of corruption. Gives you upgraded essences. Essences I always felt were kind of weak relative to the newer crafting system, so this seems like a very positive thing to me. It'll be interesting to see sort of what the actual essences themselves are and how they're all laid out. If they're buffed, that's always good because essences are a great cheap way to craft if you just want to do some smaller things, but I'll be curious to know how they actually stack up. I have a feeling they're going to be more in line with fossils would be my guess. So they're going to be good, but still not, exactly S tier crafting. It's nothing like Harvest is now, right? Okay, Breachstones. So Breachstones are upgraded via blessings now. I really wonder how this is going to change the Breachstone market because blessings are worthless in the current league. You can get them for nothing. They're like a chaos. Even at peak, they're really like not expensive. So I am interested to see how blessings change the Breachstone market, whereas like pure Triula Breachstone runs were difficult to get. They were about 3 or 4x for a stone. I can imagine them dropping down significantly, and apparently the XP was not nerfed according to Chris, so that'll be interesting to see how those runs. It might be very, very easy to get to 100 this league if you just run Rhodas all day long. Abyss Jewels are buffed. That's just, I didn't write a lot there, but Abyss Jewels are buffed. Split Beast gutted. So Bestiary got a little bit of a rework here. Split Beasts were essentially allowed you to split an item and basically take the mods and put them in 2 different places. And this is just completely gutted. I think rightfully so to some degree. So if this was done for heist purposes, I get that. For item crafting purposes, I kind of feel like they're tying our hands a little bit in terms of crafting, just because Harvest is going away. Splitting is now, you have much more limited options for splitting. I'm sort of skeptical of this change. I wish that they had just specified base types, things like blueprints can't be split. I don't think that people splitting items was a huge problem, so I'm a little bit surprised by this change. I don't love it, but we'll see how it plays out. I mean, I think that GGG is receptive to change from the things that I've seen, so I'm curious to see how they actually end up reacting. Next thing is Alva. So they basically reworked the temple significantly. The boss drops basically better rares based on the rooms you choose, which is a really cool change. They upped, I believe, the density, the map density of a temple, as well as now you can turn your temples into basically a usable map and either sell them, save them, do whatever you want with them. Really, really cool. This is something I've been waiting for a long time. Is basically, so I would have these temples and I'd be like, I don't really want to do this right now, so I wouldn't keep running my Alva missions, and they'd stack up and I have like 100 Alva missions. So I'm looking forward to getting these savable temples that you can do whatever you want with them and sort of change how you do them, and basically, and also you can run them on different characters, which is a little bit easier now. So I'm a big fan of this. So Delve changes. Delve loot needed the biggest rework, I think, of them all. They said overall that the Delve changes are going to be a buff to sort of everybody, but a nerf to people who are running super duper duper deep Delve. I think that I kind of wish they had just buffed it for everybody and not nerfed it for the people who are really, really deep. Because if you're going to invest the time and currency to get to super duper deep Delve, I kind of think you deserve to be able to like print currency. It's the amount of time it takes to get there, the amount of effort. I don't think it's an unreasonable thing to be like, I put in a shit ton of hours into Delve farming, I should be rewarded for it. Now I kind of think that Delve needed a buff, so I'm glad it's getting a buff for overall, but I don't think it should have been nerfed at the high end. I don't know. We'll see how nerfed it actually is. I'm sure you're still going to be able to print currency if you want to, but I don't know to what degree that percentage is going to be changed. So, Betrayal to the next one. Betrayal got a bunch of changes because if we're encompassing veiled mods into Betrayal as a whole, then you can really understand the changes. So basically, they acknowledged the fact that people weren't killing Katarina, as no one was. So now, basically, if you kill Katarina, it buffs all the other Syndicate members by a +1 to their room levels, including a new +4 level. So that seems like a really cool change. They also added this cool new unique staff. That could be a cool one to gamble, unveiling them and seeing what kind of mods we can stack together. The staff seems interesting. It's kind of like the sword, the unique sword that drops from her. So I think it's really cool, and I think that incentivizing people to kill bosses is always a positive thing. So I'm very happy with this. They also, so in terms of unveiling, the system is staying the same, but it's now faster, so it's easier to get the crafts, and also the mods are stronger on the base level. So, my understanding is that essentially the crafted mods are now different than the veiled mods, and some of the veiled mods can be ridiculously powerful to the point where Chris mentioned that they might be worth crafting around these veiled mods. That's really cool. I think that's exactly the way veiled mods should be. As opposed to just using them as a lever to get new crafts. They should actually be powerful on their own. And so tying into this is that there's this new item called the Veiled Chaos Orb, which drops from Betrayal. It can drop from the rest of the world, but it's more prominent from Betrayal. So essentially what it does is it gives you the same mods, it allows you to re-roll like a Chaos Orb, and the Chaos Orb adds a Veiled mod to it. Very cool. I wonder if this is going to be kind of like the level of Orb of Unmaking rare, but I guess we'll see. I think that it's probably not going to be too expensive, right? It's a Veiled Chaos Orb, but I imagine it's going to be relatively accessible. It's a cool idea, and it allows you, honestly, if you want to like burst through getting crafts real quick, then I guess that's a really good way to do it, is use Veiled Orbs instead of buying veiled items from players. Seems like a good one to me. Okay, moving on from Betrayal, we have Incubators. There's more. They added a few. I didn't get a great look at them, to be honest, because they're kind of a very small side mechanic, and they also buffed the old ones. Great, all positives. Blight maps are now affected by quantity at a partial value. That seems positive. They also added the new Tainted Oil, which allows you to anoint corrupted amulets. So very positive, but this kind of goes hand in hand with the Talisman nerf, where basically Talismans now got nerfed. They don't have the enchantment anymore, and then they also no longer get the benefit of having increased mod values. This seems like a pointless nerf to me. I don't know why this was done. They're really strong SSF maybe, and they're really strong early league, but every good Talisman right now at the middle end of a league is just completely worthless. So now it's just going to make them just even like I wasn't picking them up, and I think I'm not going to pick them up at all, pretty much. I don't think that's the point in nerfing talismans, but adding this new tainted oil gives a lot more flexibility for people who get corrupted necks. You know, I remember seeing a post about some guy who had a ridiculously strong corrupted badge of the Brotherhood, and he can now anoint that. Super cool. New catalysts, always positive. I think every kind of specificity is great. Heist rogues leveling up faster. He mentioned this in passing, but this is amazing. This made Heist just so inaccessible this past league. So getting Heist rogues level up faster is much, much better. You should really, honestly, I don't even think you should have to level Heist rogues at this point. I think they should just start at max level and call it a day. It's just a tedious mechanic because there's already so much to do in the game. Why add this? So one more small thing before we get to sort of a larger item is a reworked vendor recipes. He's like very excited. Chris is very excited for us to see how that turns out. I am too. They showed a cool fishing rod vendor recipe, so who knows what that'll be. And then this is a really cool one to me. This is the last of the rework changes. Is they reworked the core drop pool. So things like a headhunter, which used to be league specific to Nemesis, is now in the core drop pool because they want every monster to feel like the possibility of containing a mirror or a mirror quality item, something like a headhunter, badge of the Brotherhood, whatever it may be. And they said they're adding over 100 league uniques to the core drop pool. This is an awesome change. This is an amazing change. I am a fan of Headhunter. I agree with pretty much everything Chris said in the Q&A about Headhunter being, he wants Headhunter to be good. He wants it to be an aspirational item, but it's problematic when everybody at the top is using it. I think that's exactly how I would say it. But giving these items more accessibility to the average player is a positive thing, as opposed to, people like MP who roll 25,000 Ancient Orbs or whatever it was. That's kind of, that's an extreme example, obviously, but I think that it's still a positive thing to put these out there, and just opening up the possibility of items that can drop from just everyday mobs is incredible. I love the part of the reason why I love this game is because you kill mobs and shit drops and you never know what it's going to be. And now just having that increase to other cool items, positive, all positives. I was hoping they were going to announce that with this rework of the core drop pool, that they were going to change sort of item clutter and just sort of the sheer amount of items that were dropping. And now, while it's not coming with this patch, Chris specifically mentioned that he sees this as a huge problem, and they really want to work to reduce the item drops, and they're projecting it for later this year. And so considering it's almost April, we'll have this league, we'll have a league over the summer, and then one in the fall. It's probably going to be in the next league or two. So reducing the clutter. So I'm very much about that. There's too much shit that drops in PoE. I'm excited to see that change. But I'm glad it was mentioned at the very least, even if it's not going to be this league. So moving on to the other changes, just a couple quick things. He said final act bosses drop better items. Seems good to me. Better and more items. So that seems a good thing to me. Harvest is going to be encountered 60% more. I'm not going to get into the harvest changes. It's already been talked about ad nauseum. But you're going to see harvest more, but it's worse. Ritual is core to the game, as I would expect. It occurs at exactly an 8% chance, he said. And then the last cool thing to mention is that there's a Vol Reliquary Key. So for those who don't know what that is, it's equivalent to the Time Lost Reliquary Key we got in Delve, or the one in Legacy, which name I can't remember. But essentially, gives you a room where the only thing in there is a chest, and has a foil unique in it related to Vol in this experience. So it can be a Vol item, like a foil Vol item, which is cool on its own, but also it's a legacy item, is my understanding. So it's pre-nerfed. So if you get a cool Vol pre-nerf item, it could be worth, a ridiculous amount of currency. They did mention that this is the rarest version of this key ever in the game, so I would assume it's not going to be very common, but also another gamble. Chris, you heard my prayers. So with that is everything I wanted to cover for the new league. I hope you like this sort of content, these videos. I know this is not my usual content, but I love to talk about this game, and I love to hear what you guys think. So let me know what you think in the comments, and I will catch you guys in the next one.